Hey, welcome to our first Foundations workshop of the year, of ever. I'm really excited to have you all here. It's been a big part of my own passion and inspiration to not only run our company as the Nest that's providing cultural strategies that build towards collective liberation, collective joy, towards the world we want to live in through our design studio, but also through our public programming so that we can. My background is really rooted in community projects and programs and a lot of social justice work. And so, even though I moved into this for profit space, I was really committed to figuring out how to still be in community, be in conversation with other folks who are starting new projects, and to create a little bit of a peer space for us to learn together. That's how we arrived here today for Foundations. Thanks, Lauren. And this specifically, Foundations was born out of another project that is still being developed, but that we piloted a couple of years ago called Flight Lab, which was had a similar drive of me thinking back to when I started the Nest, when we started as a small group of creatives, and me really just having this nonprofit background and thinking, oh, how do I run a business? And learning and building skills along the way, but also through a lot of in conversation and in collaboration with a lot of other people who had tons of wisdom and skill from different backgrounds, learning all the things that I didn't know that I needed to know in order to run a business. And while Flight Lab, as a kind of cohort-based fellowship, is still being developed, and we're still thinking about sustainable ways to run that program, Foundations is our opportunity to tap into some of that wisdom. So you'll see as we keep producing this that we'll invite other folks like Michael, who have deep knowledge in particular areas that I have found really useful as a new and small business owner, that we want to bring them in to share that with you all so you can bring your big visions to life. And that was a long intro about what this is, but who I am is Lee Robbie Gaiman Jones. The Nest is my company that I founded in 2022. We work both in creative ways with our client-based creative studio, Woven Studios, where we're doing design, branding, and event production. And we have this arm gatherings where we put on a variety of different types of public offerings. And it is my pleasure to introduce Michael, who I met through initially a production that we were putting on in a space that he's affiliated with, but then quickly saw that he had so many other skills. And I've gotten to work with Michael to help develop some of our internal systems and even just to be a thought partner. And I know he's gonna spark some interesting ideas, questions, curiosities in our conversation today. And from there, I'll just let you say more about yourself, Michael, and take us forward.
Sure. Thank you so much, Lee and the Nest, for the invitation and the ongoing relationship that we get to have with each other in partnership, which is such a blessing. I'm really grateful to be here and to be able to share a bit of the frameworks that I've been developing around operational systems design. And thank you all for joining us here today, too. I'm Michael. I'm an artist. I'm a producer. I'm also a creative strategist. I'm the founder and director of Family Affairs Studio, which is an experience design and cultural production company. And for the past few years, I've been slowly incubating a kind of sister, separate practice called Workflow for Humans, which we just soft launched. And that's a systems design and operational or a systems, yeah, an operational design practice and consulting arm, and we help creative entrepreneurs, mission-driven teams, and individual artists to move from chaos towards clarity through systems mapping, workflow design, and facilitative strategy. So that's a little bit about me. this is why we are here today, which is chaos to clarity. This is an introduction to the framework. I have to say, the framework is actually kind of four different parts that I've been developing and will be sharing over the next few months. We are doing kind of the first part of the first area of the framework, which is seeing. How do we see clearly what's going on in front of us? And so I offer this up again as a framework. These are mostly questions. There are no right answers. I do not know everything. I do not have the answers for you. But I do have a practice that I'm excited to share about how I arrive at identifying what I visualize and what I want to have happen, and how I can see the gaps between where I want to be and where I am currently. And then what I'll be offering up today is just one specific design thinking tool to move from problems and view them as opportunities. So that's what we're going to go through today. Before we start, I'm curious, how many of you made a strategic plan last year?
Oh, I'm already failing. Yeah, no.
Nobody's
Great.
failing. I
No, no, there's no
have notes in a
failing.
notebook and I I write things. Is it a
Mhm.
strategic plan? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have been there as well. Right now I have loose, oh, you can't see it because it's yellow. Sorry. I needed to buy a new notebook. So right now I've got a lot of loose papers planning out my year that will, hopefully be compiled into a single place soon. I've also gone to the other extreme, right? I mean, I've spent hours inside of, Claude or ChatGPT, making giant strategic plans of what could be. These things don't serve me. They don't actually move me closer. And usually, what I find is happening is I'm avoiding the harder or deeper question that is right in front of me. And these are really difficult times to do planning. And the idea, the concept of strategic planning is difficult. It became very difficult during the pandemic, right? I think is where, for me, things really started to fracture in terms of thinking about what can you actually plan for when so much is uncertain and up in the air. And of course, given what's going on in our country right now, the political terrors that we face, the exhaustion, constant trauma kind of streaming on our screens, it's really hard to do any type of planning when the ground is shifting kind of constantly around us and the weight of everything feels really heavy. So I know that that's the context in which we're approaching this work, but I also know that each of us has work that we are meant to do, work that only we can do, relationships that only we can build, stories that only we can tell. And taking the time to slow down and invest in your dreams and visualize and think about, what systems am I a part of? What systems am I creating? How do those systems affect one another internally first? That's a radical act in and of itself. The slowing down and the dreaming and the visualizing means that there's a different way that things could be done. And so that's what we're trying to get at right now, is not about productivity hacks or automations or AI agents or any of the work that could come beyond. It's first about approaching clarity really for ourselves. I mean, it sounds like some of us are involved with either starting organizations or want to take our organizations to another level. But first and foremost, if we aren't sure about what we want as an individual body inside of the collaborative systems that we're building, then there's always going to be that friction and that frustration. So today is about asking ourselves better questions. It's about grounding in today and grounding in this year in an intention, one that you can keep coming back to. So we have like 32 minutes. And here's what we're going to try to do. We're going to do it actually. I'm going to guide us through a visualization for about 4 to 5 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. And you're going to meet your future self and hear what they have to say about what's going on. Secondly, you're going to land on a guiding question for the year, a question, like I said, that you can keep coming back to. And third, and this will come after the fact because I'll send a follow up, but I'll introduce a practice, and the follow up will include a PDF for you to be able to return back to this exercise throughout the year and make sure that it's still working for you. Sound good? Okay. Thank you for the hearts, Valeria. Nice to see you, or not see. I only see 4 people on the top of my screen, and unfortunately, I don't know if you're not one of them. But anyways, okay. So we're gonna start by doing a short visualization exercise, and some of you might love this kind of thing. Others might think it's a little woo woo. I go back and forth about them, but I really do love this visualization, which was introduced to me at some point 7 or 8 years ago, but it's one that I keep returning back to. And so for now, we're just going to try this for a few minutes. Please kind of close your tabs, close any other applications that might be distracting you, put your phone down, turn your camera off, get comfortable, sit in your chair. You're going to need something to write with after the fact, just know that. But for now, take a moment. You don't have to close your eyes if that's not comfortable, but if it helps, please do so. Or you can just kind of softly gaze down. When you're ready, settle in, put your feet on the ground, rest your hands on your lap, and just start by taking 3 deep breaths with me. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathe in, breathe out. One more time, breathe in and breathe out. And keeping your eyes closed, imagine yourself 1 year from now, or 3 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever time span feels more real to you in this moment, choose that one. For me, things are less secure, so I can really kind of only see out a year, and that feels real. But other people with stability can see out even further into the future. So choose the timeline that feels most possible for you right now. So we're 1 or 3 years into the future, and you see your future self. You're seeing them from a little distance, and they're sitting somewhere. Maybe it's their studio or their office, or maybe it's the beach, maybe it's the Mediterranean, maybe it's just a kitchen table or at the park. Wherever they are, where are they? What do you see around them? What's the light like there? What are they wearing? How do they seem? What's their energy like and their posture? Do they look tired? Alive? Excited? Eager? Now walk over and go sit down with them. They're happy to see you. Relieved, even. They've been waiting for you. You ask them, tell me about life. What's going on? What are you doing? Where are you living? Who do you spend your time with? What's happened? And they start sharing with you their story about what happened over the last year or 3 years or 5 years, what they built, what they let go of, what surprised them, what's different, what had to change. Listen to them. Listen to the story they're telling. How does it feel in your body as you listen to them? Stay with them just a few more moments. Let them finish their thought. Take one breath in through the nose and release it out through the mouth. And when you're ready, open your eyes, turn your camera back on if you want, and come back to this digital room that we're in together. Okay, so holding on to that feeling, holding on to that story, you'll have 5 minutes now to journal. And the prompt is pretty simple. What did your future self tell you? And what does a single day look like in that life? A year, 3 years, 5 years in the future. You wake up and what happens? Try to be as specific as possible, try to be concrete if you can. What happens in a day in the life in the future, given what you just heard from your future self. Don't overthink it and just allow stream of consciousness. You're not going to share this out loud or anything like that. So this is just for you. And you have 5 minutes, so we'll come back at 12:30. Hi there. If you're just following us now or just joining us now, we are doing a journaling exercise that maybe doesn't work without the visualization beforehand. But if you are just joining, we are spending 5 minutes to imagine what does an ideal day in the life look like 1 year from now for your imagined future self. You've got about 1 more minute, so start slowly wrapping up. All right. I was going to do breakout rooms so that everyone could share a little bit individually. But for the sake of time, does anyone want to just share briefly, one sentence or one image from the exercise from your future self that either stuck with you or surprised you or excited you or scared you? Any volunteers? I know it's personal and I said you wouldn't have to share.
You lied to us,
I
Michael.
lied. I'm sorry. If not, it's okay. We can keep on
I'm sorry,
keeping
will
on.
repeat the question?
Yeah, if anyone wants to share like a sentence or an image from the visualization exercise of their future self that either excites them or scares them or surprised them.
I just pictured a life where every day is a little different, but I'm fully immersed in dance and the arts. Like I pictured, like I said, on a Monday I'm meeting with producers to plan for a musical. On a Tuesday I'm working on my curricula for my program. On a Wednesday, Thursday I'm in rehearsal with my company. And on a Friday I'm a guest lecturer at a university. Like I was like, each day is different, but still fully immersed in what I want to be doing.
I love that. And I love that it honors that you are lots of different, you wear lots of different hats and have lots of different roles in a creative life, which I think is true for many of us. We're all wearing lots of different hats at all times. So that's awesome. Let's let's move to the next slide then. Oh wow, there was some animation even. That was exciting. So we have some directionality. We have vision. We know where we're going. Maybe that vision scares us. Maybe that life really excites us. Maybe it's bringing up insecurities. Maybe it's making you feel vulnerable to put your desires into words and to write them down. It is a vulnerable process to put down on paper the vision that you have for your future self. And the question that usually brings up is, well, how do you actually get there? And again, the answer is not with a strategic plan. I don't believe at first. The answer, I think, really lies in figuring out a guiding question or a way to kind of hold together those aspirations while aligning on what's not currently there and how do we get there. So, what I'm offering up today is called the How Might We question or How Might We framework. This framework does come from design thinking. It's been credited to someone named Min Basadur from Procter and Gamble and was also popularized by IDEO and Stanford's D School. All of this thinking comes also and draws from participatory action research, community organizing, and also indigenous ways of community decision making. So design thinking is, they have drawn from a lot of these technologies and slapped a nice name on it. But just want to honor where we are learning these things from as well. I was taught and learned this framework particularly from a group called Color Coded Collective, which I had some colleagues that worked with me at my previous job at Naval, which was a nonprofit arts organization here in LA. So that's where we're drawing from today. That's where I originally learned how might we? The how might we, what it does is it takes the problems that you're facing, or more so the gaps that you are currently facing between an imagined future self and or imagined future state and where you are today, and it flips what's breaking and turns it into an opportunity. It turns it into a question. So as opposed to a strategic plan saying, here's what's broken and this is what we're going to do, what how might we questions do is that they invite in the people that are impacted by the question itself to answer that question together. So, breaking it down a little bit, how might we? How? This question suggests, or this word suggests, that there are solutions, right? We're not stuck. We are not stagnant. We can change our state. We can change the way we are, what we do, the systems we build, the values we embed in those systems. Everything is changeable. Might it does provide permission to ask questions, to learn more. It suggests that there is not a right answer or not a single right answer to the question that we're asking. In fact, there are many solutions that can be considered and should be considered. And lastly, this is a collaborative process. It should invite participation. The we right now, it might just be you and your different personalities in the moment, or your different roles that you have if you're starting out a project. But you do have to bring those different we's in on it, because there's the we that's going to have to fundraise, and there's the we that's going to have to execute, and there's the we that wants to be on stage, right? We're bringing all of these desires into this process as well. So, what is the process for landing on a how might we question? One, first, you have to name the gaps. So, you're going to start by thinking, okay, I've just visualized, here's what my future desired vision is for myself, but here's what is currently happening. And this is when I need you to not be overly optimistic with yourself, if possible, or overly, don't be hard on yourself necessarily, but be real with yourself. What is your capacity, right? What's breaking currently that is keeping you from reaching that desired future state? So, you name those gaps. As an example, if I say I want to earn $100,000 in revenue this year, but currently I'm making like $25,000 a year and I'm working 60-hour weeks. There's the gap, right? I have this vision for myself of making a certain amount of money, but the reality is that I'm working this many hours and I'm earning this amount of money. That's a gap, right? It doesn't mean you don't deserve your future vision. It doesn't mean that it's too outrageous what your future vision is. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means that there are gaps that exist between what's currently happening and what you want to happen. So, what's causing those gaps? What's causing that breakage, right? It can be tools. It could be the tools that you're using to get work done. It could be the structures that you've built, either organizationally, or the collaborative containers that you've built to get your work done. The partnerships that you have maybe aren't working, right? The stories you're telling yourself, maybe they don't line up anymore with the story that you want to tell. Or maybe the story that you're telling is the same story you've been telling for 4 to 5 years, and that story needs to be updated, right? There are things that break all the time, and we can compassionately tell ourselves the truth. Sometimes it's helpful, if you're doing this in a collaborative way, invite someone in that you really trust to offer that feedback to you as well, or mirror to you to say, here's what my vision is, here's what's currently happening, here's what I think is breaking, what am I missing here as well? And then you take those gaps and you reframe it as a question. So in my previous example, or actually, if we just go to the next slide, let's just use my, let's just do me. Ooh, wow, there were all those animations we didn't know about. Okay, so as Lee said, we met through an organization a nonprofit kind of incubator for artists and cultural workers in LA called Naval. At Naval, we started as a very scrappy organization. We got a bunch of funding during the pandemic, which allowed us to give ourselves jobs for the first time. And then, so for the first time in my life, I had, or in many, many years, I had a stable income for about a year and a half. And it was during that time I was able to launch Family Affairs, which was the container in which I was doing a lot of this consulting work at first. However, all of a sudden, when not all, well, that's a longer story. Naval ended when we decided that Naval wasn't going to be sustainable any longer and that we weren't going to do it any longer with one another. That really rapidly changed my own stability and changed the economics of doing this type of consulting work. It basically, I went back to doing kind of project based work. And for a year or so in 2024, I was dealing with this gap, which is I really want to keep supporting creative ventures and organizations with systems design and just general strategic consultation. But right now, I am working project to project. I don't have a sustainable model, and the messaging that I am putting out in the world seems to be unclear to people. So, what was broken? I didn't have any clear service offerings with some systems built in to support those offerings. I didn't have a pricing structure that was clear for myself and for my clients, i.e., I was saying yes to the opportunities because I needed the money, as opposed to saying, does this actually value my time, or does the scope of what's being asked of me actually align with what the budget is for this project? And I was exhausted. So physically tired, want to keep doing this work, couldn't keep doing it. So my how might we became, if I am going to, I mean, and this is the contextual, if I am going to full time run this consulting practice, which before was a kind of part time supplementary practice, how could I build a consulting practice that generates $150,000 a year for me while working 40 hours a week? And again, this is not, I have not made anything close to that amount of money a year yet, guys. Unfortunately, this is still the gap I'm in. But I wanted to stretch myself, and I also knew what I needed to reach to make this feel, worthwhile to me. Plus the market research that I've done, knowing again what I could be making, should be making, et cetera, et cetera. I don't have to justify my goals for you all. I have my goals, and you should have yours too. But please note some things, right? So I turned the problem, right? The gap, which was I'm doing all these things, I have all these skills, I know I provide utility, but I don't have a model and a practice that is consistent and is communicated well to allow me to have the stability that I'm seeking in my life in the city that I live in with, this day and time. Again, there I am justifying it again. So when you are building your how might we's, you want to be specific, just like kind of all goal setting, but even inside of a how might we, it really, really is important to be specific, directional, and generative, right? There needs to be multiple ways to get to answering this question. You shouldn't form a how might we question that only has a single answer, because that's just you coming up with a strategy by asking it as a question. what what are the different pathways that this question invites in? It should be directional, as in at the end of it, you should know whether or not you succeeded at it or not. So some poor how might we's could be like, well, how might we do better at communicating our message? How might we grow our revenue this year? How might we be more sustainable in our practices? These how might we questions are too broad, they aren't directional enough, and they aren't specific enough. If we move to the next slide, we are so out of time. Okay. So some good how might we's. Notice these are specific, include a number, they're directional, and they're generative. How might we generate $50,000 in earned revenue to launch our new program in June? There's directionality, there's constraint, right, in June, and there's number here, right? That 50K is important. This one doesn't have a number in it, but it does have specificity and it has directionality. How might we fully document our operations by the end of summer so that the org survives my sabbatical, right? There's a reason behind it, there's specificity, there's directionality. How might we protect 10 hours per week for dedicated business development while fulfilling our current commitments to clients? This question brings up capacity issues, right? Question brings up how can we delegate more? How might we bring on more support? How might we structure our own daily rhythms? It invites a lot of different areas that we can go into. Okay, so it's 12:45 now. I guess I just want guidance from Lee or Lauren about the rest of it. We've got about 10 minutes, 15, 12 minutes left, really. But I'm also happy to keep going. I'm also happy. Yeah, yeah. Please guide me right now. What should I do?
Great. I think that if there's a way to condense the next piece, and even if it's like leaving us with some things that we can think about, because I think it'd be nice to see if people have other questions, or like I would love for there to be a little bit of space for people to engage directly with you as well. How does that sound for you, Michael?
That sounds great to me.
Okay, great.
And if y'all need to leave, we're recording this as well. If you
Yes.
need to head out, great. So we're going to take then 3 minutes to brain dump some how might we questions, okay? So take a look, go back to your vision, right? What is your vision for the future in the next 1, 3, 5 years, whatever timeline you put? And what are the current gaps between that vision for the future and where you want to go? Just think of those things. You know these already. You know what's not working already. It's already there. It's already inside of and so I don't my methodology for getting to a guiding question that's going to guide my overall work for the year is I brain dump. So you're going to brain dump just as many how might we questions come up for you at first, and then the second part of it, which I'll ask you all to do after this, is thank you, Claire, is to prioritize and synthesize. So let's take 3 minutes, brain dump as many how might we questions as possible. Again, be specific, be directional, and we'll come back in 3 minutes. Take about 15 seconds or so to wrap up whatever you are currently writing. Great. All right. So The next part in your homework, you've got some homework to do, is is to take this brain dump, and you're going, to prioritize and synthesize here. I, you know, what I would do if you are enjoying this and enjoying this activity is I would give yourself another 10 minutes or so of brain dumping questions to really kind of get to the meat or the heart of what comes up in the it's like it's known inside of you already, the gaps, right? It's about just putting words to those gaps and then turning them into opportunities that you can start to shift. It's also a prioritization exercise in that as you look at all of those how might we questions that you've just dumped onto the page, there's one of two things that are happening. Either one of them needs to be prioritized. One of those things has to happen first, that's foundational for the other things to be able to happen to move you towards your vision. And if that's the case, that's your how might we for the year. Or sometimes, oftentimes, you'll see patterns across the different how might we questions that are appearing. And the question is then, well, how do you synthesize or combine those into a larger question that really is maybe bigger in scope, but still maintains its specificity? So don't just combine everything together and zoom out and get vague. But if there are common themes that are coming together, put them together into one how might we question. And so by the end of this process, you should have one question that feels like the most important gap that you need to close this year. And so that's the process for how might we. The way I use the how might we question, and this is what the PDF I'll send after the workshop is about how to use that guiding question in a regular practice as part of your planning, cadences, whatever that looks like for you. What I like to do is I return to this question every year. So does this question, and this can be in January, it can be, if you don't follow the Gregorian calendar, it can be the spring equinox. Whenever you start the year, you return to the question you asked last year and say, is this still the question for me? Does this question does it still cover, is this still the right question? What's shifted, right? And then seasonally, every 3 months or so, the equinoxes are really great for doing it. If you aren't a Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 type of person, checking in what is working towards this how might we question, what's misaligned with this question, what do I need to let go of that I'm currently doing that's keeping me from getting to that question. And then every month, just a quick check-in, not longer than 15, 20 minutes of what's the next step I need to take to move me closer to this question this month? What's the step that needs to happen? And then maybe what decisions am I avoiding, which is another big thing that comes up in this practice. So it's a practice. It's not a plan. It's not a straight document. It is a way for you to maintain clarity and sit with the truth that what is true now is not going to be true in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 5 years. It's constantly changing. And so returning to ourselves and having clarity allows us to feel grounded in our decision making and also move us towards the ultimate vision that we have for ourselves. So that's what I want to leave with you all today. Those are ways you can get in touch with me. Happy to stick around and answer any questions. Thank you so much for your attention.
Yay, thank you so much, Michael. You're getting fun symbols in the screen.
Oh,
I'm glad that we have the site up so people can know how they can stay in touch with us as well as in touch with Michael. And Michael does lots of great work in a lot of different ways that can help you go kind of take this foundation and run further with it. And then once you get everything sorted with Michael on your vision and your plan, come on back to us and we can help you turn that into visuals and into events. It's fun to work with people who think in the ways that Michael does, because a lot of people come to us thinking, oh, I want a brand, or I need a new website. And actually some of this foundational work is what really sets them up for the best success. So that's my kind of closing piece here.